to make a local recording of this as
We'll
well?
give it a shot.
Let's
If
see. Let me
you're
make
gonna-
certain I give you permission. You should have permission now. So Bob, are you able to record?
So far, no. Well, let's see, record, aha, let's try it that way.
Okay, excellent. And then, oh, no, if Leah was going to join us tonight.
I'm on.
Oh, you're on. Oh, you're on. See, there was a male voice talking to me from the town of Lunenburg a second ago, I thought.
I think there is a Lunenburg Public Access
That
might be
was
who
me,
you were.
Mary. Yeah, that
Oh,
was me.
okay, okay. And you're showing up as Eric. Okay, very good. I got it clear now. Excellent, excellent. So gonna convene this meeting and start with the script. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Meetings Law, please be advised that this meeting is being audio and video recorded. The agenda lists all of the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. Please address all comments to the chair, that's me. And I'll remind everybody the protocol is to introduce yourself with your name and your address as well. This meeting of the Conservation Commission will be held by Zoom at the link provided in the notice, and the notice is the agenda that is posted on the town calendar. For anybody on public access that may want to join us, the meeting ID for Zoom is 839-3048-0895. I would encourage everybody that does want to join to just go and download the agenda that's posted, because you can just click the Zoom meeting and copy and paste the passcode. Okay, we will start out with a roll call. Bob Pease,
Present.
Richard Tremblay,
Present.
Rich Bursch,
Present.
Jeff Viviano. I don't think I see him there. All right, Mike LaRouche,
Present.
Chris St. Germain.
Present.
Very good, thank you. Okay, we do have meeting minutes from August 2nd. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those, and are we in a position to vote?
I move to approve the minutes of August 2nd.
I second. Mike.
Thank you. Okay, we'll have a roll call vote. Rich Tremblay,
Aye.
Rich Bursch,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Chris St. Germain,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye.
and I for myself. That is to approve the posted August 2nd meeting minutes. Okay, very good. So we found it to be helpful, since we're missing a formal administrator, for Rich Tremblay to take some just quick notes of decisions. But Leah, since you're on the call, is that necessary, or will you capture that?
I definitely have a working document going. It's in the Google Drive. So I guess maybe I'd urge caution if you guys opened that and made edits to it, to make sure that you aren't, communicating through that, but it's there as a Word document. So it should be editable in case I make an error. Long-winded way of saying yes, I take my notes.
Okay, so then it's not necessary for Rich Tremblay to also take notes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Rich, you're relieved of that duty, but you have done an excellent job for us thus far. Okay, public comments. Any member of the public want to make make comments? And I guess I should also call on members of the Conservation Commission. Does anybody want to make a public comment?
Mary, I don't have a comment, but I just wanted to, first of all, say it's wonderful, to have Leah here.
Indeed it is.
I've been loving her very detailed and thorough reports and recommendations. But I also wanted to, let Leah know that the purpose of these quick notes is so that, to advise Ashley, what has to be sent out through DocuSign. And so generally it's just a notice of, we've been keeping, we just write a little summary of just the actions, that require,
Document signature.
office follow-up. So I mean, that would be the purpose of those.
Awesome. I did them for last meeting and I had captured the motions and the votes and anything that may be a discussion that should be captured in the minutes, or if there's follow-up requested from me or another commission member, I just try to keep that tracked because I feel like there's always so much going on. It's kind of easy to, get lost in the weeds of all the filing. So
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you for that
No.
clarification, Bob. Leah, you did have your hand up.
I do have a couple of updates. I'm not sure if this is a good time to go over them or if there's another time in the agenda that would be more appropriate. What do you think?
Are the updates related to hearings or to business, conservation business, or something different?
Conservation business, administrative, forthcoming stuff.
Okay, why don't we handle that after the hearings when we get to the new and the old business? Does that make sense to you?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, excellent. Then without further ado, I will move on to new public hearings. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 31, Section 40 as amended, and the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Peter and Lily Coronis for the demolition of an existing dwelling and detached garage and the construction of a new single-family dwelling, driveway, septic tank at 38 Oak Ridge Road. Do we have the Coronis members and or their representatives here on the call tonight?
Yeah, Ryan Proctor is here from Dillis and Roy, and I saw Peter and Lily on the call as well.
Excellent. Who wants to give us an overview of the project? And I'm hoping somebody will have some plans and drawings to review with us.
Absolutely. I'm happy to go through it, and I can share my screen and pull up the plan here.
Yeah, let me
That's fine.
enable those permissions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you should be able to share now.
Okay, great. Let's go here. All right, so thank you for your time tonight. Again, I'm Ryan Proctor. I'm with Dillis and Roy, representing the owners and applicants, Peter and Lillian Coronis, and their proposed project at 38 Oak Ridge Road. What I have on the screen now, this is the existing conditions plan for the property. So the current site contains a dwelling with a porch, which is located entirely within the 100-foot buffer zone. In fact, most of it is within inside the 50-foot buffer zone indicated by this orange line here. And a portion of it falls within the 30-foot no disturb buffer zone, which is this other dotted orange line here. Lake Shirley is this hatched area down here. And in addition to the house, there is a garage that's mostly outside of the 100-foot buffer zone on the upper portion of the site. And there is a shed on the northern portion of the site here where my cursor is. The site is accessed, parking is up top on the property, and it's accessed by a series of walkways to get down to the existing dwelling. And like I said, the existing house is located quite close to the high water mark of Lake Shirley, which in this case is the property line. So we're about 22 feet off of the high water mark to the edge of the existing deck. I'm going to switch over to the design plan that we submitted. So the owners have engaged with ATA Construction to design a new home for them on the property. So on this site, we have the ability, and what we've done, we've actually moved the proposed house quite a bit further away from the wetland than the existing dwelling. On the design plan and what I have in front of you tonight, this red dashed line, I realize it's a little hard to see. This is the existing dwelling, this footprint here. So you can see that we're increasing the setback to the edge of the water with the new dwelling. We do have an elevated deck. There's going to be a walkout area onto a patio underneath that deck for the proposed house, excuse me. And then similarly to the demolition of the house, we are proposing to install a new garage on the upper portion of the site. And again, I have the existing garage drawn here in dashed red line. And then the proposed garage is this pink hatched area here. So we are proposing a new location to the access of the site, but we are proposing a new paved driveway in more or less the same location as the existing driveway, just shaped differently to match the location of the new garage. It was mentioned in the notice that Mary read, but we are proposing a new septic system for the new dwelling. So that'll be located partially within inside of your jurisdiction within the 100-foot buffer zone. So we have submitted to Neshoba Board of Health to review that as well. On the site plan, I did include an impervious area summary. So as a whole on this site within the buffer zone, we are actually creating a decrease in the impervious area that's within the buffer zone currently. So we saw that as a net positive in addition to increasing the setback from the structure to the wetland. This is our first public hearing. We are in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals next week. The existing house was a non-conforming structure, given its distance to the lot line. So even though we're moving it further away, we do require a special permit from them for this new construction. And the last thing I'll say is we don't have a file number yet from DEP, so I don't expect that we'll be able to close the meeting tonight, but I'm happy to answer any feedback or questions that the commission may have.
Thank you, Ryan. So I did have the opportunity to go out there this weekend with a few of my fellow commissioners. What, I'm kind of predictable. What trees are you keeping and what trees are going away?
Oh, yep, sorry, I meant to mention that. So I have circled them here. I don't know if they were indicated on the plan that we submitted, but these trees circled in red here, we are proposing to remove. I believe they're mostly pines, one of which was dead. We indicated that in the plan. I don't know if I mentioned in the narrative, but we do intend with the demo of the house, we're gonna have this area that we're gonna have to disturb or next to the proposed house. So, and we're gonna have to restore that area. So I thought that might be a good location to do some mitigation plantings or some low brush stabilization shrubbery in that area as mitigation for that tree removal.
Show me again where the 30-foot and the 50 is on the drawing, please.
Yeah, so the 30-foot follows this line here. I can try to draw a line too, if that would be helpful. That's a
Yeah,
little
it would be
darker.
helpful.
Yeah, let me try that. That's good.
Or if you could just grab that line and make it bigger or a different color temporarily, it'd be helpful.
Let's see how this works. This is very rough here. But that red line is the 30-foot. And then the 50. Roughly there.
Okay.
And then this red line here was the existing house, the footprint within that area here.
I think I'm clear on what you're doing with that then. In terms of the impervious surface, can we go back and look at that table? I didn't have a chance to look at that before this
Yeah,
meeting.
absolutely. So I broke down square footages within each buffer zone. So 0 to 30. So the edge of the high water mark to the 30-foot buffer zone, and then between the 30 and 50, and then the 50 all the way up to the 100. So
This
the
is
decrease.
really
Sorry, go
helpful
ahead.
to have in the drawing. I appreciate it.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. It wasn't wasted effort. So you'll notice, especially within the 0 to 30, and then the 30 to 50, we do have a pretty significant decrease in the amount of impervious area there. There's a lot of walkways and patios on the existing site now that we're taking out for the new construction, and now even though we're installing some new materials there, we still are decreasing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The only comment that I would say, and this just speaking for myself, is I would like to see a schedule of proposed replantings.
Okay.
And I'll open the floor to any of my fellow commissioners that have questions or comments. Richard Tremblay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question, Ryan. The existing septic system now, where is that located?
That's a good question, Rich. I had that thought right before the meeting. I unfortunately don't have that answer for you. I don't know if Peter or Lily happens to know the answer to that, if they don't mind jumping in. If not, I'll have to get that to you for the next meeting.
All right, and the other question I had too was the proposed deck for the new dwelling.
Yep.
Is that deck existing now where the dwelling is currently, or is that all new construction?
So a large portion of the proposed deck will fall within the footprint of where the existing house is now. This portion here, I guess would be new construction, but this whole area here where I'm tracing is within the footprint of the existing house. And despite where my line is here, the new deck is completely outside of the 30-foot no touch.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Do we have any other questions or comments by commissioners? I think it would be nice to the extent possible if we could help Ryan walk away with a to-do list that when the next time he comes in front of us, if he's done them all, he's in a good position. Rich Bursch, I see your hand raised.
Madam Chair, Ryan, other than it looks like maybe just a little edge of the proposed patio, is there going to be any other site work done in the 30-foot no-touch buffer area?
No new material, just the removal of the existing house.
Okay,
That's the only work we're proposing. Yep.
all right. So other than that, the walls will be remaining. Any walkways, anything else down in the 30-foot no disturb will remain as is.
That's correct.
Okay. How much fill? It just looks like we have a big hill and we're kind of changing the grade quite a bit. Is there any estimate on how much fill is coming off of this site, if any, for the regrade?
I do not have that number. I'm happy to look into that and get that to you for the next meeting.
Okay.
We have tried to maximize the slope and keeping in kind with what's out there today to the maximum extent we can. The owners are speaking with the neighbor to the south. There is an esker up on the upper portion of this site that we are hopefully proposing to remove. And that's kind of encapsulated in this grading here particularly on this side of the house. So that is part of the project as well. But we aren't creating any new unsafe slopes that wouldn't be stabilized or remain undisturbed for long periods of time.
Oh, yeah, it looks like we're taking down, some of on the right side of the house there, we've got.
Yep.
14, 16, 20, up to 28, and then you're bringing it down 14 feet to 314.
Yeah, so
Most
this is
severe
kind
part
of
the.
yeah, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, this is definitely that high esker here that we're proposing to take down. So a portion of that is on the neighbor's property. So like I said, we are working with them to coordinate that, but this is sort of the worst area for that. But then like I said, we blend it down, tied into the new house. So that'll be all happening at the same time when they remove the existing house and while they're constructing the new one.
Okay, and it looks like you're looking to get permission from the neighbors to bring their portion of that grade down as well? Because I
That's
see
correct.
the 315 go all the way across onto the neighbor's property.
That's right. And think more of it's shown on the plan that we submitted, not on this presentation plan, but we do extend the erosion control barrier out around that limit of work as well. So,
Okay.
yes, you're correct.
Okay, yeah, if I would like to see a rough idea of how much fill is coming out, and perhaps just a change of grades, if we can take a few of the housing layers off and just show a before and after of the grade.
Okay, yep.
That it's a narrow lot and there is quite a bit of change in grade.
Okay.
And what is the elevation of the existing house? I see 305 for the new dwelling. What was the existing? Is it the same?
Let me check in CAD here. Got all my screens open. We've got a threshold elevation, excuse me, first floor elevation of 3095 roughly. But there are a couple steps to get up to that right now.
Okay, so the house itself, the first floor slab's gonna sit down at 306, and that's the walkout level?
So the intent is when you walk down from the proposed garage here, you're gonna step up onto this porch here. So this will be the access point for the upper level of the house, and then there'd be internal stairs to get down to the walkout area below. But this
So the
305
walkout's
is,
gonna be at 305?
that's right, yes.
Okay, so the whole basement floor is dropping 4 feet.
That's correct, from the existing first floor elevation of the existing house.
Okay. Super, that answers all of my questions I have so far, so thank you very much.
Welcome, thank you.
Thank you, Rich. So I'm going to call on our town administrator, Leah. You have your hand raised.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, or I guess maybe more deliverables that we could cover now, so that way when you come back, they'll be covered. So my first one was in regards to work on the neighbor's property. Do you have a signature page for the WPA Form 3 with their signature as well? Since work will be done on their property.
Not at this time, but I'm happy to obtain that.
Yeah, so if you could get to us that signature page, as well as revise I think it's page 1 where it says which address the project is going to be located on, since this is going to be on 2 parcels. That'll need to be reflected. And then I believe it was you who I had worked with last meeting in regards to the erosion control and having it being a wattle and a silt fence.
That might have been somebody else, but if that's what you prefer, we're happy to do that.
Yeah, I think with the sloping in the back, that would be appropriate. And so when you're revising the plans, if you can add that as well in the detail.
Okay.
And then I just had a question. So in the table where there is the 30-foot no disturb, for the impervious surface, it goes down. So what is remaining as existing, is that already there, or is that going to be new?
So this is existing. So the 6 square feet of building is this clip of it's a shed overhang, so it doesn't have a foundation there, but that's that little portion of the existing structure, and then it's retaining walls for that 67 square feet
Okay.
that are down closer to the water.
But that's nothing new.
Nothing new. No.
Okay. Okay, perfect. I think that kind of covers it for my questions.
Thank you, Leah. Rich Bursch, you had another question or comment? Actually, Rich, I'm going to let Bob go next since he hasn't had a chance yet. Bob,
Okay.
you're up.
So I just want Ryan to identify again the trees that are proposed for removal.
So they're circled here in red, and I can make this clear on a resubmitted plan before the next meeting, but there's 1 circled here, 3 here, and then there's 3 more just outside of the 50-foot
So 7 trees altogether?
7 with one that's dead.
I'm sorry, 7 with 1 what?
Being dead.
Oh, 1 being dead.
Yep.
And so, speaking just for myself, I would want to see, a replanting schedule for, they're not inside the 30, so it's discretionary outside the 30. But, I'd like to see, something in the way of new trees on the plan.
Okay, yep. We can identify that. I did mention that we could have this area where the existing house is now. That's going to be a new cleared area. So I'm happy to look at that area and then some other areas on the plan as well.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Bob. Rich, back to you. Did you still have questions or comments?
I did have a comment. I feel that if we're going to be doing work on the neighbor's site, we should certainly have a more detailed plan of the property and the topography on the neighbor's site, not just kind of this little bit of snapshot that we have currently.
Okay, I can expand our viewport on the plan.
Okay. I mean, I can kind of see what you're looking to do, but we certainly should have a little bit more detail, and then continuing on where it is in the buffer zone and the erosion protection.
Okay, absolutely.
Super. Thank you very much.
Any other commissioners with questions or comments? Okay, I'll open the floor to members of the public. Does anybody have a question or comment? Okay, Ryan, it sounds like you have a few items on your to-do list. What I captured was proposed replanting schedule must be included, should include trees, show before and after elevations, maybe a sheet without the house to kind of show the detail on those proposed elevations, and then broaden the view so that it's clear what work you're proposing on the adjacent property. Getting us the signature form for the work on the neighbor's property, and update the erosion control to include wattle and silt fence. Yeah, and then I think Leah had made some comments about updating the NOI to clearly show 2 parcels are included in the proposed work. Anything that I missed there? Yes, Bob.
I thought Richard asked for a schedule of the amount of fill being taken out or added. But I could be mistaken. I'll leave that to Rich, but I thought I heard him say that.
Yeah, I had that on my list, Bob,
Okay.
as well. Yep.
I did. Thank you, Bob.
Very good.
And I
Excellent.
do have just one comment, as I don't remember having seen Ryan before. I really enjoy all of the effort into the color diagram. That's great.
Good.
Makes things much easier to read. I would suggest perhaps finding a little better palette of colors to use that contrast.
Okay.
The pink on the olive is really, really hard to see unless you blow it way up.
Yep.
But the color is definitely appreciated, especially for our eyes as they get a little older.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, well, if there are no further comments, I think I'm looking for a motion to continue. Since we don't have a DEP number, we can't do anything more anyway.
So moved. And a time and date?
Yeah. Ryan, do you want the next meeting, or do you
Yeah,
need
it's-
longer?
No, I'd say why don't we go for the next meeting? I'll send a follow-up email at DEP at the end of this week and see if we can get the number before the next meeting. And I'm confident I can address these comments before your
Okay.
next meeting.
Okay, so continue to October 4th.
So moved.
Second, Richard.
Okay, we'll go for a roll call vote. Bob Pease,
Aye.
Richard Tremblay,
Aye.
Rich Birch,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Chris St. Germain,
Aye.
and I for myself. So continued unanimous approval, continued to October 4th. Thank you, Ryan. And okay, Bob, you had your hand up?
Well, I just, Ryan, when are you appearing before the ZBA and when are you going to the Health Board of Health over the septic?
So Wednesday is, a week from tonight is ZBA. We've submitted the septic to the Board of Health. We're waiting for that initial review from Jim Gariffi. And then we'll have a variance hearing with them as well, but that's unscheduled at this time.
All right, thank you. I would just make the suggestion I used to make to everyone is that you take, if you have a copy of your canceled check, you send it in to Denise Childs or Mia, so that, because usually they're waiting for a copy. You're waiting for Boston to tell them that you're paid, and that can be the bottleneck, in the process. So
Yep.
just a suggestion.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Okay, thank you. We'll move along to the next hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law 131, Section 40 as amended, and the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Denise Charpentier for the removal of an existing dwelling and construction of a single-family dwelling at 6 Peninsula Drive. And who do we have here to talk about this project tonight?
It's me again. Sorry, you're not done with me yet.
Hi, Ryan.
Hello,
Nice to see you again.
good to see you.
Do you want to take us through the details of this project?
I'd be happy to. I think Denny Charpentier is on this call as well, for the record. So I'll once again share my screen if that's all right.
Thank you.
And it's the same color palette. I apologize. I was proactive though. I just colored the existing house in while you were reading that. So
Thank you for that.
you're welcome. All right. So this project by Denny Charpentier at 6 Peninsula Drive is nearly identical to the previous project. It is a tear down of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling within the buffer zone partially. And then additionally, there is the construction of a new septic system on the property as well, which is going to be fully compliant outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. So the existing house is shown here in red. Oh, I didn't trace it, but there is an existing deck in the same footprint that we have shown for the proposed deck within the 50. So the plan with the new house, we do intend to hold that deck line. However, we're not putting anything closer to the edge of Hickory Hills Lake. So the new house again is shown here in this pink salmon color. We have an existing paved driveway. We are proposing a modification near the garage to expand that to allow vehicles to pull into the garage and have adequate room to back out without backing all the way out onto Peninsula. It's a little bit scary to back out there. The septic system location, the new septic system, as I mentioned, we have the tanks here in a leach field outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, which is this orange dash line here. This project is a little bit different than the one that I just presented. There is an increase in impervious area as an aerial view within the buffer zone. So to provide mitigation to that, we do have a roof infiltration system that'll be installed subsurface underneath a portion of the proposed driveway. And then we do have a stone recharge trench along the northern part of the foundation and to the south side of the proposed driveway to capture some runoff associated with a portion of the roof and the portion of the new driveway as well. The tree removal on this site, we're proposing to remove 4 trees, and I think we're going to run into something similar on this site that we just did. But 2 of the trees are on our property. 2 of them are on the abutting property to the north, which is Denny Charpentier's brother. So I did submit a letter in our notice of intent that he was in favor and was requesting basically granting permission for us to take those trees down as part of the project should the commission move to accept that. So that was included in the notice of intent package. And to provide mitigation of those, I did identify a few small landscape areas within the 30, and then one between the 30 and 50 on the site plan. I did not submit a palette of native shrubs or trees in this case. I will do that before the next meeting, similar to the other hearing, so I'm learning from that one while I'm doing this one too. And then the only work that we're proposing within the 30-foot wetland buffer zone, there's an existing sand beach area that the owners travel to get to the dock that exists on the lake now. And there are some concerns with washout, so with the sand area there. So we are proposing to do a fieldstone patio open joint at the same elevation and within the same footprint as that sand beach area is there now. So we're not expanding the limit of disturbance that exists there today, nor are we filling any bank or any floodplain there. So I think that's a pretty good overview. Similar to the last project, we are before the zoning board next Wednesday for the same special permit application as the previous hearing. And we have submitted to the Board of Health for this project as well. There is no variances requested for this one. This is a fully compliant system. So that's all I have to say. I think I'll happy to open it up to questions.
Thank you, Ryan. Where is the water line on this?
It is drawn, the flood elevation is this dashed line here, this dark dashed line.
Okay. Okay. And if I understand correctly, you're proposing to remove a total of 4 trees, 2 on this property, 2 on the adjacent property, and then just plant back shrubs.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, I would, me just speaking for myself, I would expect there to be some trees in the replanting
Okay.
schedule.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And do you have the impervious, the change in impervious surfaces
I
table
do,
in this
I
as
do.
well?
Yep.
This is lovely. Okay.
So the building, so there's currently, aside from the dock, which I omitted from these calcs, there is no impervious structure within the 30-foot, nor are we proposing any.
Mhm.
There isn't within the 50 either, with the exception of a portion of the existing deck, which we are maintaining the same footprint post-construction. The increase is primarily between the 50-foot and the 100-foot, and that is a majority of the increase comes from the new dwelling, which we are proposing those the subsurface infiltration system and then the stone trenches along the foundation and along the driveway as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have any further questions right now. It looks like Bob Pease has his hand raised. Bob, floor is yours.
Yeah. Are you counting the deck as impervious?
I did count it as impervious
Why?
to be conservative. I consider it part of the building. I know there's going to be some leakage through there, but I was consistent through the existing and the proposed. So I suppose if you'd consider it pervious, there would be zeros across the board. there.
I mean, I would love to see a calculation of how much of the deck is presently in the 30 to 50 and how much the deck is proposed to be within the 30 to 50. I'm not sure it's impervious. My other question is, you said you were going to put, I'd love to see a calculation of, you said there's an existing sand beach and you want to take and replace the sand beach with flagstones to prevent the sand from eroding into the lake. Do you have a description of, and you're counting that obviously as pervious. Do you have a description, so that shows, how what you're proposing is pervious?
I can get you some pictures, Bob, before the next meeting, but we are, like I said, open joint field stone, with pervious, either grass or just gravel in between. So it's not strict, it's not a concrete structure that's, everything's gonna run right off it.
Thank you.
Bob, just so I'm clear on your recommendation, I mean, generally speaking, I think people count decks as semi-pervious.
Yeah.
It's what I kind of observed as a status quo. And so I think what you were saying is that where Ryan has on his screen now the 30 to 50 buffer zone, and he shows building is 132 and then existing and proposed 132, that it would be clearer if it wasn't shown as building, it was shown as like deck or something like that.
Exactly, yeah, I think, I mean, and if some of it's gonna be building and some of it's gonna be deck, I'd just like to see that in the table, that's all.
I see what
Yeah.
you're saying, Bob. Yeah, so no portion of the new house itself is within the 50-foot. It's just that section of the deck, which is within the existing deck footprint. So the entire new house is outside of the 50.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, and I think I agree with Bob too, for what it's worth. I love this table, but it'd be even better if the semi-pervious field stones were shown as. Yeah, and maybe you would just want to add a row to the template that's semi-pervious. Because you've got pavement and
Okay.
concrete, and it wouldn't belong there because they're not pervious at all, right?
Yep.
So yeah, that might be an enhancement, but I do love this table.
Okay.
So don't take anything away from it. It's beautiful.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, do we have any other questions or comments from members of the commission? Question, let's see, Leah, did you want to give us your rundown and any recommendations that you might have and or comments, questions?
Yes, so a lot of my comments will be the same for the last one. Same thing in regards to the neighbor's property, having that reflected on the WPA form. I think it's page 1, so that way their parcel ID number is included as well as signature. I also, same thing with the wattle detail, if that could be updated to be straw wattle and silt fence. So with the high water line, is it understood that sometimes the erosion control is going to be underwater with the placement?
So the high water line here is the 100-year flood. I know it's been raining a lot recently, but we are coming into a season where the water's going to be a little bit lower, I would think, especially during construction. So I don't see it as being an issue, but if that is, with the exception of that fieldstone patio modification in that sand beach area, we don't have any other work down that way, aside from the landscaping, which is just kind of outside that floodplain. So we could, during construction, if we need to modify the erosion, we could, but I don't see that being an issue during the construction season.
Are there plans to work seasonally for low water conditions?
Nothing set in stone, but I know they're anxious to get going whenever they're able to. So just given the timeline of how things are falling right now, I'd say it would be off rainy season or lower water season.
Yeah. I might want to look into that a little bit more, and maybe the commission could consider too, since this will have to be continued like the other one due to not having a file number, what might be good options for that. I don't know if maybe another line of erosion controls go in more beyond the 30 where the work is going to be done, and then the erosion controls will go in for the patio only when that work is being done. I think that might be something for me to do more research on and the commission to consider. And then for work on the patio, as it's in the 100-year flood and it's on the bank, I would like to see that reflected on the WPA form as well, since even though the work is still pervious, it's still going to be an impact to the resource areas. So I think that should be captured as well.
Okay.
Rich Birch, you have your hand up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ryan, what elevation is the floodplain?
It is 370.6.
370.6. And what is the elevation currently of the sand beach?
So we have it set more or less exactly at the existing grade here. So the lower portion, this elevation right here is a 3. I think these elevations are off by a foot. My elevations. It's about 369 at the bottom right here, Rich, and then we're holding the top elevation, so about 370.8 at the top.
Just want to make sure that we're not filling in the floodplain at all.
Yep. No, that was not our intent. We wanted to avoid that, so I'll confirm those numbers.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Bob, you have your hand up?
I do. Ryan, would you be open to a condition that the work in the, on the patio, would occur, during the drawdown? You know, because we draw the lake down every year by at least 18 inches, and usually a lot more than that. And, you know, that'd be a good time, in my view, you know, to do the work, since it doesn't seem to be related at all to the work on the rest of the house.
Yep.
Would you and the applicant be open to that?
Yeah, I can discuss it with Denny, but truthfully, I don't see an issue with that. I think that's going to be a stabilization towards the end of construction anyways. So I think we can maneuver around the drawdown and do that. So I'd be open to a condition on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the commission? Okay, are there questions or comments by members of the public? Denny Charpentier, yes, the floor is yours. Denny was just there.
She's still there. She's muted.
Oh, yeah,
Hi, can you hear me?
I can
Yes.
hear you now.
Hi. So Denny Charpentier. So I grew up in this house. We've lived in it for 60 years, about. So, and I can tell you that there has never, ever been the water ever coming anywhere near that line, even with all the rain we've had this year. And I don't know if that makes any difference, you know, but I just want to, you know, let you know that we have a lot of experience with that property.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, thank
Uh,
you.
Matt Charpentier, you have your hand raised?
Yes, Matt Charpentier. I actually grew up next door, and just wanted to clarify that this sandbox was referenced to as sand beach. This is a sandbox. It's bordered by wood on all sides and set back slightly from the bank.
That's very good to know. Thank you for that clarification, Matt. If there are no other questions from members of the public or the commission, Ryan, when do you want us to continue this to? The next hearing?
If you can accommodate us on the next hearing, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, that's October 4th is the next hearing. I think I'm looking for a continuance.
So moved.
Thank you, Bob.
Second,
Second, Madam
Mike.
Okay, and a second by Mike. We'll have a roll call vote. Get back to my list so I don't leave anybody out. Chris St. Germain,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Rich Birsch,
Aye.
Rich Tremblay,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye.
and I for myself. That's a unanimous vote to continue this hearing to October 4th.
All
Thank
right,
you, Ryan.
Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
You as well. Okay, we'll move on to continued public hearings. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Robert J. Correa for the construction of a garage at 932 Flat Hill Road. We do have a DEP number for that. Robert, or I think it's James Tetreault. Yeah, do you
Yep.
want to just reorient us and catch everybody up on where we are with this project?
Sure, I will try and share my screen, though I'm only on phone here. I'll see if I can do that.
If it would be easier, I can share it. I should be able to.
Well, it says it's loading. You see?
We see part of it, like
Okay, yeah, I
the
was
driveway corner.
I was down at the bottom to show you the changes in the notes.
Okay,
At the last meeting of the commission, there were a few items which we were tasked to address to bring things up to the satisfaction of the commission. We had previously 6 notes. I'm sort of zeroing in here on the corner. We added numbers 7, 8, and 9. Actually, just a little bigger. So number 7 was pursuant to, as the chair suggested, we added a note stating that no additional trees shall be cut outside of the work limits shown on this plan. Also, there was discussion that I'm going to pull up and show some of the full screen here. There was discussion about doing something to address the open spots or gaps in the proposed revegetated areas. And we added note number 8, which states that ground cover in the areas to be revegetated shall be provided with a combination bark mulch, leaf litter, and 4 pounds of New England Wetland Plants, Inc. Conservation/Wildlife Seed Mix. And that 4 pounds actually would be sufficient for the entire area if there was no other, even had there been no bark mulch or no leaf litter applied. This particular mix is 1,700 and change pounds, square feet per pound, so 4 pounds actually exceeds the total area, which is just over 6,000 square feet. So we added that, and we added note number 9, which states demarcation of the revegetated area will be provided behind the existing house with lines of stones. And up just a bit, and again, what you see, circling the cursor around the stones, you see we have a note here, minimum 100-pound stones at a maximum 6 feet on center to demarcate revegetated areas. And we propose those at the boundary of all of the area behind the house, where obviously there's anybody's more worry of encroachment. I think those were the items that the commission wanted. Again, a note stating number 7, no additional trees would be cut. Some specificity in regard to how the open spots between the 90 some odd plants and the trees, shrubs and the trees would be dealt with. And again, pursuant to the suggestion of the commission, combination of bark mulch, leaf litter, and 4 pounds of New England Wetland Plants, Inc. Conservation Wildlife Seed Mix. And note 9, demarcation of the revegetated area will be provided behind the existing house with lines of stones. I hope we've done what was being looked for at the last meeting. I think so, but if there's any questions, I'll try and answer. And Mr. Correa is also on the line here.
thank you, James. So the note about not cutting other trees came with designating the trees that were going to be cut. Are those now shown?
We don't have an exact location. Again, we believe there are about 5 trees to be cut in, circling at the front total or the front left corner of the proposed garage. I think at the edges here, we're actually just working under tree canopy, and the 5 trees to be cut are in the area of the garage here and the corner of the building where I'm sort of circling. We don't have an exact location of those trees, no.
Okay, so the point of saying not to cut other trees was so we had accountability or making a clear decision about what trees and where.
Sure, but what we say is no additional trees should be cut outside of the work limits shown on the plan.
Right, which sort of implies that anything that's within the work limits of the plans you could freely cut, and I take exception to that. I want to know exactly what's being cut. And what I'm agreeing and
Well,
permitting you to cut. I don't want to be there to be any ambiguity there.
Okay, I didn't understand that to be what you're looking for. For instance, if there's a tree right here, there's no way we could avoid cutting it. If there's a tree here.
And I'm not saying that I would, me speaking only as one commissioner, right?
Yeah.
We certainly have to hear from the rest of the commissioners, but I want to make certain that if there's a tree there and I say, yeah, cut that because you need it to get access to the garage and I'm giving you permission for that. I don't want there to be 4 or 5 other trees that you thought were necessary, but I didn't understand were necessary to find out after the fact that they were cut.
But doesn't the erosion control barrier define that limit sufficiently? I guess that's what we thought. I apologize. I didn't realize that you meant it quite that way. I thought you just wanted it to be clearly stated that no tree cutting would be done other than what was required for this work. And
yeah, and I don't know how many are going to be required for this work, what you think and what I think. And certainly, you know, as an engineer, I would imagine, right, your purpose of the drawing is to make certain there's clarity and that the regulations are, you're very clearly what is applied within and what the permission is for. And for me also as an engineer, that seems to be a wide open door where there could be a lot of misunderstandings.
I guess I don't see it. How is if he cannot cut beyond the barrier line, I don't understand where the ambiguity is.
So that line is actually going to be scaled out. Most of the time, there's
This is going to be an erosion control barrier is going to be placed at that line. That's what that symbol is. Not a limit of work. It's the proposed erosion control. I'm sorry. I'm trying to. Proposed erosion control barrier.
We'll move on from this point.
Okay.
So we still have in the drawing the amount of area that's going to be disturbed within the 100 foot and the amount of replanting, the square footage.
Correct. We didn't change that. And again, I'm going to circle here. There's 4,032 square feet of area where the cover is being degraded, either by going from woods or lawn to impervious or driveway. And there's 6,100 or going from lawn to impervious or driveway. And there's 6,100 square feet, again, just over 1.5 times as much, that is to be revegetated per the, if I got it right, I thought it was 95 shrubs and trees, and in addition now also, again, the bark mulch and the 4 pounds of the
Your audio dropped out.
Oh, I had remembered 95 shrubs as being the number, and that is the number.
Okay. And how many trees are being replanted there? Let's go back up to that too.
8 trees, the red oak, black cherry, that had been seen before in the transect by Goddard Consulting, and we added a couple of white firs also.
Okay. And you're
It's a relatively sandy soil, and that's
okay. And you're cutting 5 trees in that limit of
Correct.
work?
Correct. That's, and again, in the area by the front left corner of the garage.
Okay, I don't have any further questions. I will open the floor to my fellow commissioners. Bob, I see you have your hand up.
So, for clarity's sake, how many trees are being cut and are they identified on the plan?
It's 5, and we do not show a specific location, such as, here is a 18-inch oak, or, whatever it may be. I apologize for that. I just didn't understand that to be the desire from the last meeting.
Oh dear. All right, thank you.
Do we have questions or comments from other members of the commission? And or from our administrator? Okay, hang on. Rich Trimley, you had some questions or comments?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. I just had one question. In this area where these 5 trees are coming down,
Sure.
how many trees approximately are there in there that could be subject to come down?
Those are the only ones. I mean, if I, just a second, I'm running the cursor here. This is grading work that's actually under tree canopy of trees that are probably a little bit off of the property. The trees in question are over here. There aren't any other trees in that area. I mean, there's over here. There are a couple trees I believe that are off the limit of work that have tree canopy extending over here, but those shouldn't be affected by the relatively minor grading work and changing of lawn to lawn over here. So for instance, right here, the ground really is not changing grade, and we're probably actually being somewhat conservative and saying, oh, we're downgrading this. This is a high tree canopy here. This is the edge of it, as indicated by the scallop line, and we're counting that as area that we're degrading when probably there's high tree canopy over this, and we're going to make some low vegetation into lawn. It's not actually really probably a cutting of trees in right this spot right here, for example. But the trees in question are in, again, this area here at the front left corner of the garage.
Okay, thank you. No more questions at this time, Madam Chair.
There's also, excuse me, I just wanted to speak. There's also 1 or 2. I think there's 2 or 3 right there up near that corner of the garage, and 1 that would be, or 2 that might even be in the corner of the building. And then there's 1 in the driveway area, like around the, what is it, 316 mark, 315 mark, right in that area. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe, or 6.
Just for anybody else listening, that's Mr. Correa, who's the property owner.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So then there are 5 or 6 trees inside this area that may need to come down.
Yes, I believe that was the discussion that's been all along, 5 or 6 trees. I know there's going to be basically 2 that are in the building, in the footprint of the new building. And then, like I said, there's, I want to say that there's 1, 2, there's like 3 smaller ones right there around the 312 to 314 mark. There's 3 smaller trees. And then there's a larger tree up near the, like right now, if you can drive by, there's a dead tree that fell down probably 5 years ago. That's leaning up against another one. The dead one will obviously have to be taken down. And I don't know about the one that it's leaning on. I don't think that would be affected. I don't think. But there's a larger one behind it, like around the 316 foot mark. And that's like right in the middle of the driveway.
Okay, thank you. No more questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Rich. So Leah, I just for the record, I did ask Leah to contact DEP just to make certain that we were clear that we were allowed to permit this work. Leah, do you want to share with the rest of the commission what the DEP's comments were?
Yeah, I called and spoke with Kimberly Roth with the Central region. And so she had explained to me that if the project was over 10% of alteration in the riverfront area, that there shall be a 100-foot corridor of undisturbed vegetation. If that is not possible, it needs to be met to the maximum extent feasible. So her suggestion to me was to have the commission consider whether or not the applicant has done everything that they possibly can to have as much of a vegetated corridor. So that's your guys' discretion, but that's how it was worded to me at DEP.
Thank you, Leah. And as I kind of have taken that on board and have been thinking about this project, they're proposing to disturb an additional, what is it, 4,000 square feet? Is that that's the building and the
That's the area
driveway?
that would have its cover in any way degraded, where we're not counting as areas that are lawn, which will be slightly regraded and be lawn in the future,
Right.
as being degraded. The area where the cover is being degraded is 4,032 square feet.
Yeah, but then you're replanting 6,100, so it's a net
And-
add of
And we're
2,100.
replanting almost entirely. I mean, you could argue where I'm circling the cursor as being sort of even, but everything else is closer to the river, to the perennial stream, than the alteration.
Yes.
As to being 100 feet away, here's the limit of the inner riparian zone in the middle of the existing house. That's simply not possible.
Well,
we
I
are-
mean, the point that I was trying to make is that it seems like we're gaining back,
Yep.
What is it, 2,100 plus or
Right.
minus of naturalized area
Yeah.
that wasn't there before.
Correct, and again, that's our argument for why this is a reasonable proposal for the commission to approve is that which you're getting 1.5 times as much area in a better position, closer to the perennial stream, and you're getting infiltration both from the existing house where there is none, and you'll get infiltration of runoff from the new structure, and that taken as a overall bargain, we think it's a reasonable thing for a commission to accept. We discussed this a little bit last time in regard to that same position of DEP was raised, and it was like, well, are you as far away as you can be? And the answer is, because of the septic system in this area, yeah, we can't. If anything is to be built here, we can't get it any further away from the stream than this. So again, we're in compensation. We're revegetating 1.5 times the area that would have its cover degraded, and we're creating infiltration where there's none.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from abutters or members of the public?
I do have two questions, but they're more clarification. I don't think they would alter any decision tonight. James, is the area of the plantings calculated in that 18% of alteration?
The 18% of alteration does not include the plantings. This note's number 2 for everybody online. Note number 2 on the plans is a total of 9,201 square feet has already been degraded by the construction of the existing home, paved driveway, and gravel driveway. This is 18.5% of the site's riverfront area. So that would actually go down with in net with the proposed work.
So if I'm trying to
It
figure out how to.
It would not get it. Well, you could figure it this way: there's a net, basically 2,000 square feet of reduction of, call it, of degraded area, and if 9,000 square feet was 18%, meaning each 1,000 square feet is 2%. Reducing it by 2,000 would be like reducing that 4%. So we'd get to 14.5%. We would still be, unfortunately, over the 10%, but we would be in a better net circumstance.
I'm just thinking, I apologize, I haven't had a chance to look at the entire filing. I've really focused more energy on the plan. I think that it should be reflected. So with my talk with Kimberly Roth, she had explained to me that DEP sees plantings as alteration to the riverfront area, although temporary and not a degradation. So if the planting area is not considered and calculated on the WPA form, I think it's for page 2, maybe 3, where the inland resource areas are, if that number could just be updated in square feet, just so that way the amount of alteration has been tracked. It's, again, like I said, it's not degradation, and I don't think that this in any way changes should change the commission's decision. It's just that DEP considers plantings as alteration.
So that sounds almost nonsensical. It sounds like DEP is saying if you take lawn and plant back the species some of the species which the wetland scientists saw in the transects of the natural vegetation, that's alteration and that's bad?
They're not saying it's bad, it's a temporary alteration. So there is still soil disturbance that's going to happen. That's why you would be reflecting it in amount proposed replacement. That's what their stance is because it's still work being done. I don't think it's in any way supposed to be reprimanding, as I say, it's temporary work, but they're still considering plantings as alteration, temporary alteration.
Okay, fine.
I think that it's one of those things, if the commission was comfortable, they could still vote and close, and I could write the order pending the receipt of that updated form. And then I don't have a copy of this plan with the new notes on it.
Don't? Oh, okay. Are you talking you're just saying you just don't have a paper copy, or?
I don't know if a paper copy has been delivered to the conservation office. It was never forwarded to me through an email, so I don't have it, and it's not updated in my internal drive. So if the woman in the office did receive it, she maybe just didn't get the chance to upload it. The most recent revision of the plans I have were submitted on with revisions dated 8/30.
No, these came. I sent it to the chair and the LCC email address. I guess I thought I sent it to you, but maybe I didn't. I apologize. But
No, that's fine. Just as long as we have a copy for our record, just to keep with the file. But if it's already been submitted, then that can be. I can make sure that the assistant in the office puts it in the file. So then, just again, as I said, I think the commission, if they're comfortable, could still vote to close an issue, and then I wouldn't send it out pending until I've received the updated WPA form. And it doesn't need to be the whole document, just the one page.
Sure, we obviously we'd have no issue with that. I would get that to you.
I think that is all that I had.
So what's the date on these again, James?
The date is, let's scroll down. September 13th. With the
Okay,
note of
yeah,
revisions, tree cutting note, common ground cover.
I do have it, and I apologize for not forwarding it, because it was sent directly to Ashley. Anna Petrie is no longer with the Conservation Commission.
Oh, if I sent it to you, I apologize. That's my mistake.
Yeah, but Adam also got a copy of it, so it should have been uploaded to the file.
I'll just circle back and make sure with Ashley in case it's not there. I could be missing it. I just quickly flew through the filings, but just to make sure it doesn't get lost in the.
Yeah, well, one of the
Yeah.
things I think we would like to work on moving forward is some kind of naming convention, so it's easy to find what we're looking for. But that's a whole other subject.
That's a subject in every office, believe me.
Yeah, tell me about it. Okay, so I didn't see any question or comments from abutters or members of the public. And Leah, those were all of your questions and comments. What about
Yep.
this what's your note on the erosion control? Is this straw water or straw wattle and silt
I'm going to
fence?
jump to the second page here. Hold on. I believe it's silt fence and trying to find it. Sorry. Oh, here it is. Detailed erosion control barrier, which is silt fence and straw wattle.
Okay, excellent. Very good. Okay, I was just looking up my notes from previous hearings.
Am I correct in that the alternative analysis has been is all
Done and
set?
submitted.
Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Pease, there were about, I forget which was the number, there were about 8 properties which were listed for sale on an MLS search, and obviously, as you might guess, several of them were hugely larger properties intended perhaps for somebody to, intending to build a subdivision. There were a couple of individual lots, at least one of which definitely had wetland impacts that would be involved, but none of them were anywhere near the ballpark. They're all order of magnitude plus more expensive than just the additional parcel here that Mr. Correa, which now
Thank
no longer
you.
has even any work in it.
Thank you.
So I think I'm looking for a motion. In looking through my own notes from previous meetings, everything that I had captured had been notes that we had asked to be updated to the drawing. So I had not captured anything that would be a special order of condition.
I'm not sure as I wasn't here when the hearing was opened, but I know at least for the last hearing, Bob, you had a chance to mull in
Yes.
for this. Yep. Awesome.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Leah, for covering that procedural
And-
detail.
And I would note that Leah was talking about a condition that the final plan that the OOC will not be issued until the final plan has been submitted and received by the administrator and conservation office. You know, that
So I think the plan has been submitted, so that just didn't, I think it just didn't end up getting circulated to me, but the WPA updated form, I think it would be a good, I think you can close an issue and then it will be distributed pending the receipt of the WPA form.
that's what I was trying to capture. Thank you.
Okay. So I am looking for a motion. Is anybody willing to make a motion? Does anybody have a concern that's not been addressed? Well, me speaking for myself, it seems like all of the concerns that I have raised have been mostly addressed. And for the disturbance that's happening within the inner riparian zone, it seems like they're compensating, well compensating for that with renaturalizing a significant portion of the inner riparian zone. So I personally
Madam
would
Chair?
be, yes.
I would make a motion to approve and hold the approval paperwork until such time as the office receives the documentation requested.
Thank you, Rich.
Second by Bob Pease.
Thank you, Bob. Okay. We'll do a roll call vote. Chris St. Germain,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Jeff, no, Jeff's not here. Rich Birsch,
Aye.
that was an aye, Rich.
Yep, aye.
Rich Tremblay,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye.
and aye for myself. And that is to approve the NOI for 932 Flat Hill Road with the condition that the approval notice and letter will be contingent upon receiving the requested documentation in the office.
I thank all of you very much on behalf of the applicant. I think you've been very fair in giving him direction as to what was required in order to satisfy the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Well,
Moving along, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on an amended order of conditions by Nicholas Eaton for repair and construction of an existing deck at 441 Townsend Harbor Road. Do we have Nick or his representative here on the call tonight? I don't see Nick actually on the participants list. Okay, I am not seeing Nick here, so I think we'll have to reach out to him and see if he can attend the next meeting. So I think I'm looking for a motion to continue this to October 4th.
So moved.
Second, Rich Birsch.
Who was the primary or
Mike.
first motion? Mike, thank you, Mike. Okay, roll call vote. Chris St. Germain.
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Rich Tremblay,
Aye.
Rich Birsch,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye.
and I for myself. It's continued to the 4th. And in terms of actions, Leah, maybe you can get Ashley to see if Ashley can or somebody can email Nick and
Perfect.
make certain we have him on the correct next agenda.
Awesome. I can do that.
Thank you. Okay, I see a number of folks still hanging out on our call this evening. Is anybody on the call for administrative determinations, extensions, or certificates of compliance? Okay, I'm not hearing or seeing any. And we'll just run down through the, oh, is anybody on the call for enforcements? Or violations? I'll call on the McGurns.
Yes, I guess we are on for the certificate of compliance tonight. Actually, the woman to my right and on the screen here came out tonight and said I should show up to the meeting tonight.
Okay, you're on Sunset, aren't you?
No, 238 Fire Road 16.
238 Fire Road 16. Ah, right. I don't see that. Is that actually on the agenda? Did that make it onto the agenda, Leah?
Yes, it's in a weird spot. I'm not sure why it's been here, but it's put under deterred due to office staff shortages.
It should have been bumped up from that if the McGurns were actually going to show up. But since we have the McGurns here, I don't know that we need to put this off. So
No, I think so. As I mentioned, I went out on site today and I met and we walked around the property, took a look at everything. I think the main components for me that I was looking at was the site stable? Were there any concerns risen by DEP when they did their site visit, and what do the mitigation plantings look like? What their condition looked like? So the site was stable. All of the grass was at a mowable height. Erosion controls had been removed. The area for the compensatory flood storage was stabilized and established, and the homeowner mentioned he lost one tree for mitigation plantings and then replaced that, and that tree is doing well, and they've been put in for almost 2 years now, so 2 full growing seasons. DEP didn't have any concerns with closing, so I would urge that the commission close and issue a certificate.
do we have any questions for Leah or the McGurns from members of the commission? Okay, I think I'm looking for a motion.
I move, we approve the order of conditions for this property.
Second, Richard.
Okay, thank you, Bob and Rich Tremblay. So we'll do a roll call vote. Chris St. Germain.
Aye.
Michael Roosh,
Aye.
Rich Birsch,
Aye.
Rich Tremblay,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye.
and I for myself. So that is unanimous approval to issue the certificate of compliance to 238 Fire Road 16. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll wait for that and I'll record it as soon as I have the signed COC in my hands.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We will go back up to the top of our new business. So any updates on the timber rights fund? Bob, any updates from the?
There are no updates on the timber rights fund, but we are going to the Sean Kelly estate was the court approved that the Sean Kelly estate can send the town the check for the bulk of the estate, and so it should be arriving, I would think, within a week or so.
Out of curiosity, how do we keep track of those funds? Is that just going to be something on some commissioner's spreadsheet somewhere? Or is there like a
Well, there's,
report?
hopefully, given our present shortage of staff in our accounting office, somebody has to set it up in an account.
Mhm.
And it'll be tracked in Munis. And you have to go in and request a report from Munis about, what's going on with it. I mean, I'll certainly track it as the commission's unofficial treasurer, but
I would appreciate that. That would be
I
great.
definitely will be doing that, but Munis is the Bible. I hate the system, but it is, a double entry bookkeeping system that's kind of bulletproof. So, and just to review, anytime we want to spend any money, evidently, according to the town attorney, we're going to have to go through the select board for it every time, but we'll work that out down the road.
Okay. Excellent. And then in terms of old business, I don't think we have any updates on grant application proposals. I think I had already announced to the group that the Snow Rider grant that had been actually contract executed on in the fall has been approved by NHESP because some of the proposed projects were on endangered and critical habitats, but that's now been approved. So, and the Snow Riders are starting their fall meetings and trail prep work. So it's good timing there. So Bob, I will need to talk to you and kind of talk about kiosk materials, which the Conservation Commission had approved funding.
And we'll be able to go out and buy those at Mackey's using an existing purchase order, so.
Excellent, excellent. And then the, I guess one of the things, well, I said there are no updates, but maybe there are updates. One of the other details in the proposed projects was grant budget support to purchase gravel to top the two of the Cowdrey parking areas, existing parking areas, the one on 2A and the one on Mulpus. So it would be nice if we could get budget support from the Conservation Commission to buy the gravel, then the reimbursement from Mass Trails would go back to the Conservation Commission.
So we'll need to figure out, you know, how much gravel do we need?
Yes,
get-
I have
and-
that number and I can get quotes
And
as
and
well.
get a quote from Powell. Or anybody else.
Is it better? So I do have people within the snowmobile community that are in that business that can give us good deals on gravel, but they may not be an existing supplier in the current Lunenburg system. Is it better to go with an existing supplier or with somebody that might be able to give us a better price?
That conversation is best held directly with Julie Bellevue, who's in
Okay.
procurement.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
Nothing else on grants. Leah, you had your hand up?
Yeah, when we wrap up, I would like to bounce back just as some new business for unanticipated in the past 48 hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem. So I'll just wrap up the old business part and we can bounce back to new business if that's okay.
Yeah.
So 208 Northfield Road, just to update everyone, and I did forward this to your Conservation Commission email addresses. The appeal had been submitted by the Woodlands to DEP. DEP reviewed the details, went out and did a site walk, and they have approved the project. So I think the net is that they have upheld the decision by the Conservation Commission. So and the Water District was on copy for that as well. So I think they should be able to proceed with their project now. Mushroom signs. Bob, did you want to talk about mushroom signs?
Well, what seems like an eternity ago, the commission asked me to go to the town attorney and get a legal opinion, get his advice on you know, do we need disclaimers on mushroom signs? And I forwarded his advice to the entire commission.
Yeah.
And then we discussed it at a meeting without any real resolution. And then subsequent to that, I had a discussion with Mary in which I thought we decided, well, the volunteer who made these mushroom signs can put it up, and if we need to add a disclaimer, we can. And so I told the volunteer he could put them up, and then I read in the meeting that I missed that the commission said, oh, these signs shouldn't be put up yet. So I apologize for that. And so the signs are up at the.
I think the Conservation Commission, Bob, said that they wanted to see the signs before they approved it. I don't think that they said they shouldn't be put up.
And I did send the commission a copy of the signs before. I could do it again.
It's in the file, actually.
It's in the file, yeah.
Yep.
It's just a picture. I think it's like maybe a 5x5 grid of 25 pictures of 25 different mushrooms, and it says these are mushrooms that can be found at Rob's Hill. Can you find them all? It was the long and the short of it.
Bob, I saw one of these tonight in the Lane property while I was walking my dogs.
Oh, you did?
And it actually has been amended since the member of the public submitted this to you. It actually says do not eat or touch mushrooms.
Oh, there you go.
So it already has the disclaimer on it. And Bob and I talking offline about this sign, one of the things that I mentioned to him is that I don't believe that we have anything in our bylaws or in our land use regulations and guidelines that prohibit members of the public from adding signs or commentary in and around the kiosk. It might be something that we want to consider for the future, but right now it's a courtesy when somebody comes and asks us about posting up a sign, because we don't have anything that prohibits it. So do we want to make a motion or to retroactively approve these signs?
I move we retroactively approve the signs that Mary described as appearing in the Lane property.
Second.
That's Chris as the second. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Rich Tremblay,
Aye.
Rich Birsch,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Chris St. Germain,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye.
and I for myself. You guys should go in the file and look at these signs. They're beautiful signs, and they look just as beautiful out there on the trees or at the trailheads. They really did a nice professional job with these. I was impressed when I saw it in person. Okay, let's go back to the topics unknown 48 hours in advance of the meeting. Leah.
Awesome. Yes. So I have two updates. Well, the first one is that my flexibility with being able to do site inspections is basically going to go away. Unfortunately, I'm moving to Amherst on Friday. So I'm certainly still going to help virtually. I know a lot of the commission members, you guys go out and do site inspections on your own. If you find that you want to take pictures and send them to me, that way I can put them in the file for everyone to look at. I still plan with new filings to do due diligence in the sense of, looking at aerials, looking at updated Google Earth imaging, topos, etc. I just won't be able to get that boots on the ground. I might be able to find times here and there to slip out this way. And then, of course, you still have Adam in the office who, if there's something that's like the town is, somebody's filling in, Lake Shirley, feel free to still contact Adam. And I'm going to update him as well. This all happened really fast and it's exciting, but it's also a bit stressful and it stinks that I really can't get out there because I think that helps me as well provide you guys with a better report. So I'm going to make sure to do some extra on my end for just making sure that what I'm saying is reflective of what's in the field. And then my second update, we can't really go into too much of a discussion about it because it wasn't an agenda item, and I am gonna share my screen if I can. Yes. So I was notified of a potential enforcement issue for 39 Island Drive. So I went out there today and they had this retaining wall that kind of wrapped around the house, the side of the house here. And so this is my back to that ditch. So they tried to put in some erosion controls of straw bales here, but right on the other side of the bales are cattails, and I can't remember if maybe Phragmites. This is their backfill. And again, this is where, and it kind of goes this way. And then behind me is that berm. So they did not know any of the wetlands regulations, need for permit. I would say that they're probably outside of the 30, but they're certainly within the 50. They just wanted to replace what was there in kind, but of course that included excavating. So I met out on site this evening with the property owner, and we talked about what the next steps are. So I did tell him that he needed to cease and desist with the work, and that an enforcement order will be forthcoming. So my plan is to write that this week, and then we'll put it on the October agenda for you guys to ratify. In order for the cease and desist to be valid, what I'll do is I'll sign it on behalf of the commission saying you have to stop all work until a notice of intent has been filed. He was concerned about this portion here since the foundation of the house is right here, and he's about to lose this unit. It's, this is kind of overhanging. So I gave him to about here, which is 6 feet outward, which I'm going to include in the enforcement order. The only work that is allowed to proceed for the time being is stabilization here. So if that is putting in 6 feet of the new wall, if that's re-backfilling to stabilize this, putting erosion control blankets, I've asked him, and I'll include it in the enforcement, to give me 24-hour notice, written notice of what the plan is for stabilization. But I know that was the big concern. I did let him know that I would be asking for a notice of intent, so that way they can kind of start on that now, and work with somebody. They were trying to figure out how to do it on their own, and I really encouraged them not to. I think that they needed to hire somebody. They're doing the work on their own. This might be a better picture. But I said, go ahead and do the work on your own. That's fine. But I really encouraged them to hire somebody for the wetlands work. So this is what was there. It was a wood, I think they said old railroad wall. So they pulled that out, and then they were going to compact down pea stone and lay over a new retaining wall. So I think moving forward, they are planning to, they know about the forthcoming enforcement order. I'll get that out this week, and I'll circulate it to you all as well when I send it to Adam to issue to the property owner. They're hoping, I told them, I'm like, if you bust, you could probably make the application deadline for the 4th, but I wouldn't expect that. I think they'll be on that meeting for the enforcement order, and then likely the following for the notice of intent. I don't think that there's much to that notice of intent. I just think with the proximity to the water and the earth disturbance, that it is more applicable than an RDA.
Thank you, Leah. Any questions for her?
Leah, do you think the work is entirely on their own property, or do you think they went onto the lake's property at all?
I did ask the property owner. They fully believe that it's on their property, and somebody from the homeowners association has been in contact with them, so they'll be submitting this information to the homeowners association. They said that another resident in the area had said that usually what the process is the resident will notify the homeowners association, who will then tell the resident to talk to conservation. So I I plan in my email when I send them the enforcement order to say, make sure you're in compliance with the homeowners association as well.
Rich, you had some questions for Leah?
I did. How tall is the wall, Leah?
I don't know how tall it was, and they don't unfortunately have any existing images of that. I think what happened was I think they graded down. And what they plan to do is lay the pea stone over it, and that dirt berm that I showed you is going to be backfilled, and whatever they don't use to backfill is going to get taken off of site. So I would imagine that it's probably going to end up continuing that existing grade.
What's the
Yeah.
ultimate height gonna be?
I'll have to ask them, and that would, I would imagine, be something they'd include in the notice of intent.
Okay. Do they need a building permit over a certain height? Do they have one?
I don't believe that they have one. I honestly think he just thought, I think his thinking was, is since he was replacing in kind, that it wouldn't be that big of an issue. Which, I mean, in theory, it's not. It still requires a wetlands permit, but I think our level of review goes down. I'm not quite sure what the building department's requirements are, so I'll follow up and I'll make sure to cover the homeowners association and the building department just to make sure their bases are covered.
I think that's a good idea, and it was a good thing you brought it up, Rich. While you were talking, I looked in Zillow because I knew that these folks had just recently moved. They had moved from, coincidentally, 100 Woodland Ave, which had also been on our list previously of enforcements. But Zillow does have one photo from the previous owner's MLS listing, and it looks like it's at least 3.5, if not 4 feet. So it's right up against that regulatory height. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you, Leah, and thank you, Rich, for bringing that up.
But it sounds to me like they're planning to create more flat land where there wasn't flat land before. Well, and I understand why homeowners want to do that, but it sounds to me like they're going to be changing the grade there in,
Making it lower, maybe.
And that's a regulated activity. So
Yes.
Yeah, so I let them know. I didn't recommend anybody to them for, obvious reasons with any kind of bias, but I did let them know a couple of people who've come before us recently that other people have used. So I think they have an idea on who they want to reach out to and with moving forward to help them with the notice of intent process. And I let them know that the nice thing about hiring somebody is that they're going to do everything for the homeowner, who is really, this isn't his lens. So he's not looking at this with a conservation background. Hire somebody who knows, and they're going to wrap it up together and attend the meetings on the owner's behalf. So I think that's the route they're choosing to go.
Thank you, Leah. Any other questions or comments?
I would just comment that on something Leah said. I mean, certainly they're going to need, if they are on, for people who haven't seen the lot, a picture of the lot, the actual lake frontage is owned of this lot is owned by Hickory Hills Landowners Incorporated. And so if they did get close to the lake, they'd actually be on land belonging to Hickory Hills Lake. And so if they're on land to Hickory Hills Lake, they'll need permission, and they would need permission from Hickory Hills Lake according to their bylaws. Even if they weren't on Hickory Hills land, but because there's things in the deed, but that's not the commission's business. And while we urge people to take and go and be compliant with, Hickory Hills Lake, that's not our role. That's just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
I do have one last. I'll do one more quick share. I pulled up the GIS. So this is the parcel 39 Island Road. So I would say if this is the house, this work is right here. It's probably going on right there. So they should be within. So I don't think that there is any issue with that. But I do, Bob, based off of what you were saying, I do agree that while the discrepancies between the homeowners association and the homeowner is not our business, we also shouldn't be issuing work on other people's property
Right.
without their consent. So I think they're in the clear, but I want to capture that in my email when I reach out to them.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on. Thank you for that, Leah. Any updates on encroachment issues? I haven't seen anything. Bob, have you?
I don't know if I mentioned to the people, I went and I met with, I don't think I have. I went and I met with Adam Costa about the people on Chase Road. And I just asked him, one, what percent of people typically, just fold their tent, when they get the litigation notice, and he said, well, it's less than half. And then he also advised me that litigation is a very lengthy process. It could take 3 years to just get on, the court's calendar. So, let's be patient.
Thank you for heading up that conversation with Adam and representing us there. I appreciate it. Hollis Road. Go ahead.
And it's time for us to circle back to 315 Lancaster. The last time we heard from them, it was back when I believe Anna was here. And they told her that they were going to get a survey, and we haven't heard from them in a long time. So I think it's time to reach out to whoever's in the office. I don't know whether it'll be Adam or I don't know if that's really Ashley's role, to take and send an inquiry to them about, well, where are we? So because that was all verbal, I've never seen anything in writing in response to them. Now, it could be Anna has something in the file, but I've never seen it, so.
What about Mulpus Road? Have we ever had any
Mulpus Road,
correspondence?
they were gonna
from them?
take, they sent an email indicating that they were going to comply, but again, we got to circle back there. I'll be going over there soon because I have to Unitil is pulling some poles, and I have to go over there and measure how long the poles have to be and decide the pole sizes. And I'll be right there, so I can take a look, take pictures when I'm there.
Okay, excellent.
For the bridge that is proposed to be built, by that grant, that planning grant we just received. So.
Okay, excellent. And it's great news that you're already starting to get access to some poles. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, Hollis Road residents updates. Hollis Road in general.
Yes, Mary, quite a bit going on here. Nick Morrison continues painting and repair of the trim work. And as I indicated last week, when I got a text from Chris Ruth, the environmental facilities director, the 2 windows in the attic were never really addressed in the original window project, given that we did all the window work from the inside as far as counting windows on the in the living space. We forgot to look at the 2 windows that were in the attic that no one really has access to. So in doing the trim work, those 2 windows had to be replaced, which Chris Ruth went to Home Depot, purchased a couple of small, tiny windows, and those were replaced by Nick Morrison. So originally his quote was 4,800, which was approved. I'm assuming there'll be a little extra in that 4,800 approved quote. And given that the windows last year were 14,764, and if you add, the 4,800 for this year, plus a little extra, I'm assuming we're still going to be way below in the Haas fund for funding that project. Other things on the pollinator habitat, I would like to present their fall proposal for new plants for next year. It totals $221.43. So I would like the commission to vote to approve those plants for their pollinator garden. I'm certainly willing to list those plants if you would like to hear about them.
I'm interested in it. I think it's an excellent thing. But maybe don't go into so much detail that we
It'll be very quick.
Okay.
3 monkey plants or monkey flowers at $8, totaling $24. 5 wild indigo at $10.50 each, total $52.50. Lindera spice bush, 3 of those at $38 for $114. And Cornus bunchberry, 5 of those at $14 for $70. And there's a subtotal, a discount, and once everything is tallied up, they're looking to approve, or we're looking to approve $221.43 to the Blue Stem Natives company, which I guess we have an account with. So it should be a straightforward approval, and they can go ahead and order their plants.
What account do we usually pay for these types of expenses from?
I'm not sure. Could it be the Haas account as well?
Bob, do you know?
In the past, Pollinator Habitat has requested funds from the commission, and we've paid it from the Haas account. I've spoken, and it is a legitimate use of the Haas account, although I always would like to try to reinforce with the commission that, our primary concern should be, the maintenance of the residents there. But if you take, because there actually is no documentation, at least I have not been ever able to find the documentation, that established the Haas gift fund. So, but the short answer, and I should have just stuck to the short answer, is it's the Haas fund.
Sometimes it's nice to know all that background, but thank you.
Yeah.
I think
So
it's
can
an excellent idea.
Can I propose to spend in the amount of $221.43 for the new plantings for the pollinator habitat?
So moved.
Can I ask just a quick question before we finish formalizing this? Does that 221.43 include all like the tax and the shipping and handling and stuff? I just,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
So we don't have to worry about it coming in higher than this?
It will not be higher.
Okay. Yeah, I would second that motion.
Thank you.
So we'll do a roll call vote and we will start out with Bob Pease.
Aye.
Rich Tremblay. Rich, you're still on mute.
Hello, aye.
There Thank you. Rich Birch,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Chris St. Germain,
Aye.
and I for myself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for Hollis Road?
Just want to let you know that I took care of removing 2 more hornets nests.
Ooh,
Apparently there's been a run on hornets nest this summer, so I've got 4 under my belt.
wow.
I think we need hash marks on your car door or something, Mike.
I think so. And that should do it.
Okay, very good. Let's see. Thank you, Mike. We've already handled administrative determinations.
We did?
I think I just asked if any of the people on the phone were interested in were hanging out for that purpose. So 73 Horizon Island Road. Are we in a position to discuss that? I think 73 Horizon Island Road. I got to look that up. I'm not even familiar with what happened there.
Marcia and Leo Levesque. They have a tree they want to cut down. It's on the street side of their house. It's dead. And at least according to the photograph, I've not gone out and looked at it, but the photograph they sent, it's extremely dead. I mean, I personally would like to make a motion to approve, but if Leah went to look at it, I'd love to hear from her.
Yeah, exactly as you said. I looked at it this evening as well. I just did a drive-by, and it's in a landscaped bed in between the house and the road. So it really, there's no way that I could foresee any impact. It was an old conifer, maybe a spruce that just didn't take. So I think it might have been between 10 and 15 inches DBH. It wasn't too big. I don't see a reason to not take it down.
So that was a motion. If the woman will accept it.
I'll accept that motion, and I would second that motion.
All right.
And then we'll do a roll call vote. Chris St. Germain.
Aye.
Michael LaRouche.
Aye.
Rich Birch.
Aye.
Rich Tremblay.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
And I for myself. To approve the administrative determination to take down the dead tree at 73 Horizon Island Road. Extension request permits. Assuming these are active. 100 Summer Street. We have anybody here to talk about that? No? 1387 and or 1381 Mass Ave. Yeah, I don't have any information about those. Just gonna go.
I have them here. Oh, sorry, I have them here in the here, let me see if I can do this again. So in old business in the drive, so I'm in, I think this is let's do this one first since it's first on the agenda, 100 Summer Street. So they submitted this letter due to the COVID state of emergency. Their extension brought them to February 25th, 2024. So they're asking for an additional 3 years. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with this order. It was a restoration for a portion of 100 Summer Street, which is in Lunenburg and Fitchburg. So they're asking to extend it to February 25th, 2027. Okay. Currently under active construction and progress is being made. So the extension would allow them to finish the work. And then they've got the old order here.
I
Okay.
move we approve this extension request.
Thank you, Bob.
Second, Richard.
Okay, roll call vote. Chris St. Germain,
Aye.
Michael Roosh,
Aye.
Rich Birch,
Aye.
Rich Tremblay,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye.
and I for myself. Okay, let's look at the next ones, Leah.
Okay, let's see. Back to share. I believe this one's narrative wasn't as thorough. Yeah, so they're asking for 3 years, it's a garage and install of a pool. If they were September 6th, 2023, let me see what the original expiration was. 9/11/2020, so you don't mind me really fast seeing what the new would have been.
I actually am not able to see your screen. It says that you've started screen sharing, but it's not showing me anything, so.
Is anyone else able to see?
Nope.
Huh,
But it's okay. You're reading what you're, you know, what's there, so I think that's fine.
is this better?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll break out the handy tolling. So original expiration date would have been 9/11/2023. So their new expiration date with the COVID tolling is December 16th, 2024. So they would be asking to extend to December 16th, 2027 as well. And
So that
that's-
doesn't, is it just me that just doesn't seem like they actually need to extend if they have like another 15 months?
I'm not sure if they are aware of the tolling period. I've dealt with this a little bit. I had a resident email me in a panicked haste about an upcoming expiration, and I let them know they had until 2025. So you can always tell them to come back at this time if what they've submitted for was a garage. I don't quite know really what the holdup is. They didn't say in their narrative what it was that was holding them up. Let me come back to so many places. There we go. Yeah, it just 3-year extension for the garage and pool.
Oh, I
And-
noticed, I noticed they just started working on this. I remember approving this. And they just started working on this like a couple months ago.
Yeah, they've written that they plan to build it this fall. So, you know, the commission you have a few options. You can tell them to wait until, you know, next fall to come around and ask again. You could issue a 3-year, you guys could issue a 1-year. You know, I think that there are options, but as of right now, they've got December 16th, 2024.
Yeah, I would go with just telling them to wait until the fall of 2024 to ask for an extension, because they may not even need it.
And I bet they're not aware.
That I think is a fair kind of assumption there.
Yeah, for years, I thought they changed their mind because, you know, we approved it and nothing happened. And, because Joe and I ride past that on our bike ride and, but just recently I noticed, oh, they got started, so.
Okay. Does anybody want to advocate for actually doing the extension or granting the extension? Not seeing anybody that's advocating for a different direction. Do we need to,
I make a motion that the applicant be advised that they don't actually expire until December, if I have it right, December of 2024. And that they're requested to apply, and if they need an extension, to apply in the fall of 2024.
Second. So I'll take a roll call vote. Chris St. Germain,
Aye.
Michael Roosh,
Aye.
Rich Birsch,
Aye.
Rich Tremblay,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye.
and I for myself. Okay, we did actually vote on the certificate of compliance. Oh, but we didn't on Northfield Road Lot A. Probably because those residents weren't on the call then. Do we have anybody on from Northfield Road Lot A?
I spoke with the applicant over the phone, the representative regarding this. So the issue we ran into was the special condition that required boulders be placed along the boundary line. I did go back and do a little research on what was officially approved, and the final plan was accepted to only include the buffer zone in that upper corner with the well in it. The condition for the boundary markers, though, is still valid as it was a special condition. So the applicant was requesting that they come back in the winter. They want to wait to place the boulders because right now with all of the rain, the ground is pretty soft and they would end up tearing the grass up. So they'd like the ground to freeze before they put the boulders in. I told them if that's the route they want to go, the commission will wait to issue until all of the special conditions have been met. They do have a resident currently living there, so there was no issues with regards to the order being recorded on the deed. That's not their concern. It's just a matter of closing.
Okay, so then we should strike this from the agenda until they come back and ask again.
Yeah, I think so, and I don't necessarily think they need to resubmit a formal request. And a new site visit should be done just to make sure those boulders get put in. But I think all of the content is there. It's
Okay.
just that one special condition, but that is what I advise to just, I told them to come back to us once it's done. We're not gonna, I don't think it's our job to chase them on that.
No. Okay. I was just making this note. Okay. I don't think that we need to make a motion or do a formal vote on that. We'll do it when they show back up.
I agree.
Okay, thank you for that confirmation. Okay, enforcement. 205 Sunset, the Beers lot. I think last time that had been delayed until October on request of their engineer. Flip a page here. Town beach erosion. Now, is that something that you had been asked to go look at, Leah? No.
That one has not been brought to me.
I believe that is a historical artifact, but I could be wrong.
I think it is as well.
I mean, I
But
think that should have been dropped from the agenda after the curb was put in.
I think so as well. I think the thing that I don't recall, Bob, is I don't know if, so I remember the violation being acknowledged, communicated to the parks and to DPW. And I recall that they put in the curb like quickly, like within a week, which was awesome. I don't recall that we actually formalized a closure of that enforcement. Does anybody else remember if we voted to formalize the closure of that enforcement?
I move we formalize the closure of that enforcement.
And do we have a second?
Second, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. And we'll do a roll call vote. Chris St. Germain,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Rich Birsch,
Aye.
Rich Tremblay,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye.
and I for myself. That should not be there next time. 143 Island Road.
So an update on this one, I've been working with the homeowner. Last time we met, I had let you guys know that I did a site visit with him, let him know to work with his landscaper in regards to new plantings to replace the 4 that were removed. The commission had showed interest in a after the fact RDA. So I'm just gonna share my screen again. I have some photos that were sent to me regarding the plantings. I think it was 1 oak tree, which would be that one. I think 2 ash trees and a pear tree. That looks like an ash. That one's just not going to load. So this is their 1, 2, 3. Not sure where 4 is, but it's in the general area. I got to imagine where he's standing is where the trees had fallen originally, and it's all surrounded by the same substrate. So it really isn't ideal for trees and for stable roots. So I forwarded his information along to Ashley in regards to the RDA, and she has been working with him, and I think that should be forthcoming.
Thank you. Just out of general information, Leah, how close was that to the wetland?
Maybe on the 30-foot line between 25 and 30. I can't tell. He says that the trees had fallen and they were flush cut where is to remove the jagged trunks that remained. I really didn't see any evidence of it. That doesn't mean that's not how it was. You know, it definitely is a tough environment where they were for trees to be growing, and I don't think any of them were really much bigger than you know, they were all lower. The 4 trees were all smaller than 10 inches DBH. So they weren't, big overstory trees. Yeah. And I think my big thing, which it seems like was satisfied, was all of that cut debris was thrown into the wooded area, which was also probably 20 to 30 feet away from the water. So it seems like that has been removed.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Leah regarding 143 Island Road? Well, her cat has something to say about it.
It's her snack time. She's sad I haven't gotten up and given her that.
That's adorable. Okay, thank you, Leah. We'll move on to 10 Mass Ave.
Awesome. I'll share my screen. I should be last time for the night. So I just went out this evening when I was doing my site visits. I believe I sent myself the pictures. So they removed the debris that was all cut and thrown down here. So I think these are.
Oh, we're not seeing your screen.
My goodness. Better?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so last time we had shown these pictures, all of this had cut vegetation that was just thrown down here, creating a berm. So I think this ponding water is more just a matter of runoff. This isn't an intermittent stream. So I met out there with the property manager, I believe, and I had let him know that they have the erosion controls. They're sitting over here in a stockpile, and I kind of said, you should have been. He asked when I wanted them put in. I said last week. So I gave him a deadline of next Wednesday to have them in and to send me some photographs of them installed on this side. So between this standing water here and this berm. That way, I think this does trickle. I think, like I said, I think it's drainage, but it does trickle downward. So we want to kind of capture any runoff. Like I've said before, this is I imagine it's buffer zone. It's certainly not the wetland. I would estimate that they're over 50 feet away. And that's why I've stuck with the, trying to do this internally rather than having to go through with a full enforcement order. I don't think that that's entirely necessary due to the distance. I did get asked, however, what would happen if the erosion controls were not put in by then. And I said, we have the capability of an enforcement order and fines and other things and requiring permits and issuing, fees associated with that permit. So I really, kind of let them know it's in their best interest to just put the erosion controls in. So I would ask maybe if somebody would be willing to next week just stop by that site and just pop in the back of it and just see if the erosion controls are put in. If I don't receive any pictures, which I can circulate if I do.
Okay, we'll work that out, and somebody will get down there and look. If nothing else, it's useful to keep the pressure up with people that are wondering if it really matters if they do the right thing.
Yeah, like I said, I think that there are a lot of, I think it was maybe more of an innocent question of their curiosity, but I think that, I have asked them to put it in already, and it was supposed to go in a little while ago. I believe the property owner said that he had an injury that kind of set him back a little bit, so I wanted to give a little slack with that, but I was told over the weekend they'd be in and they're still not, so I just kind of, let them know that we do have jurisdiction here, and that if they don't want to put the erosion controls in, that we do, we can move forward with other enforcement options if that's what the commission would be interested in. But
And
for now, let's see.
Help me remember, are they still working on that project?
Yeah, so from what I was told out on site, the property owner, I believe they have a building permit for this. They're going to be expanding in the back, and it's all supposed to be on top of the slope, and they are going to rip wrap that the downward part of the slope. I was told that they had met with the previous conservation agent who said that there wasn't a need for a permit, a wetlands permit there. I'm not sure if maybe that agent was using the GIS layers that I was, because at my first initial glance, the GIS shows that there are not wetlands mapped in this area, and that the riverfront doesn't have an associated BVW, which I would argue is not true. So it's just possible that maybe that got missed, or maybe it was in the interim between. So I just think it might have been a matter of, I feel like it would have been a determination in RDA anyways, due to the proximity, but with that, of course, would have included no dumping and erosion controls, which is the primary concern here now.
Okay, and so after they install the erosion controls, have they been instructed to provide a retroactive RDA, or?
I have not advised, but if that's the way you guys would like to move, that I can certainly let them know that you guys would like that.
Well, let's put this out to the rest of the commission. How would you guys like to see this handled, and what have we historically done in the past? Bob, you were the previous chair. I'll pick on you.
Well, thanks, Mary. I'm not sure. It is, I mean, because all I know about this is I looked at the same GIS information that Leo looked at, which didn't seem to imply, that there was any wetlands issues there, but, Leah still went out and looked at it and, said there are wetlands issues. If it's not, if they put the erosion, let me ask you this, Lee, if they put the erosion protection in, what would we be looking for after that?
I would want them to leave that in and keep it maintained until that rip-wrapped slope has been installed, stabilized, and I'm not sure if they're the DPW or if to fulfill the building department, that needs to be accepted by another agency. That would kind of be my initial thought. I don't know if Lunenburg has an engineering department, but
Nope.
no. Okay. So, I'm not sure if in order to get a certificate of occupancy, they'll need to have somebody go out and make sure the plan has been fulfilled accordingly. I would want the erosion controls to stay in until they've had that sign off.
So if we didn't have them submit an RDA, would we have any trigger to go out and review the work? And then would we have any, it seems to me we wouldn't have any jurisdiction to manage them to stabilize in that bank and ensuring that if they decided not to put in riprap and just decided to ignore it, we wouldn't have anything that would trigger us to go back out there and look at it, nor would their ability to close the project be constrained on a certificate of compliance from us. So, I mean, it sort of seems to me like that implies we should have them submit an RDA so that we have can exert those exit controls in an area where we have jurisdiction.
We do have jurisdiction here, Leah.
Yeah, I certainly, I think it would be, I don't know where the buffer zone ends. I think it would be in the applicant's interest to assume all of the work is in the buffer zone and file an RDA as if it were, rather than hiring a wetland scientist to come out and do a full delineation. I certainly do. I think there would be a level of science that would need to prove to me otherwise that there is not buffer zone here.
Then I think they should file an RDA.
Does anybody have a dissenting opinion that they'd like to advocate for? I certainly want to hear everybody out on this. Okay, I'm not seeing that sometimes there's a delay in raising hands and people kind of gathering their thoughts and stuff, but I'm not seeing that anybody is wanting to advocate in a different direction. So I think we need to instruct these folks to submit an RDA. Now, do we need to do a formal motion on that? It's not
think
really
it
a
hurts.
decision about the work. Okay, well then I'm looking for a motion to ask
I move we ask 10 Main Street to 10 Mass Ave to file an RDA.
I second that motion. And we'll do a roll call vote. Chris St. Germain.
Aye.
Mike LaRouche.
Aye.
Rich Birch.
Aye.
Rich Tremblay.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
And I for myself. Okay, any emergency certifications that have been issued? No?
No new ones that I know of.
Okay. Any updates on open space and land use?
Just that I owe John Jones a thank you. He submitted his bird study.
Yeah, nice.
And I have to take, though I am gonna follow up with him with a number of questions. I want to take and establish that it's okay to mow the area between the parking lot and the bridge. That it's okay. He recommended that we mow a path around the side of it to keep dogs out of, the area where the areas where the birds might be nesting. And that it be hayed either very early in the season or later in the season. Rich Pierce did go up there and hay it, back in August, with the hopes of maybe getting a second cut because the stuff that was up there was mostly junk as far as hay goes. And also in speaking with Rich Pierce, who's the local farmer who's been doing the cutting up there. He said that in his opinion, that bridge wouldn't be strong enough, even, you know, a telephone pole bridge wouldn't be strong enough to support the farm equipment getting across it. And he suggested we consider culverts. So I was gonna go up and take some measurements and find out, you know, is that something we could actually consider? You know, so to provide us access to the back property. But I'm gonna put all that in writing when I get around to it and share it with the commission.
Well, we'll probably have to do another one of those NHESP submittals for installing culverts there.
Thank you
Which,
so much, Mary, for that information I didn't want to know.
Well, I happen to know somebody who has a track record of getting
good.
those
Maybe they can do
those
it.
submitted. So I can certainly help out with that
Okay,
piece of
super.
it.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, I think that gets us to the end of the agenda.
Well, that I just like to ask Leah, so Leah, first of all, I just think your reports and your presence has been wonderful, and I'm so sad to hear you won't be able to do site visits anymore. Do you have any idea if there are any plans for site visits going forward by, you know, someone who knows what they're doing?
I'm actually, right as we all end, I'm gonna follow up. I had an email from Julie, the assistant town manager, and I'm trying to figure out, I guess, where the town is in the process with looking for a full-time administrator. Because I mean, I'm certainly happy to help, but wow, the volume of filings you guys get is a lot, and it's, you know, a lot to go through. So I try to make sure I give you as comprehensive as a listing that I can. So I'm working with Julie, and I'm gonna suggest that she repost the job listing on the MACC job board and the MMA job board, because some people might see it on the town website and think that posting is old, so maybe they just forgot to take it down. And hopefully somebody will see that and come along and apply. But I do need to talk with Adam. I reached out to him, seeing if he could Zoom in with me next week, just to kind of go over how things have gone so far. And I'm not sure if he'll need to go back to doing site visits. I think it might be a little outside of Ashley's job description for her to go out and do it.
More than that.
Yes. So I definitely plan to work with Adam to see what he finds to be the best option. And you know, I want to keep helping out with the administrative stuff, but I just, you know, it's an hour and 15. So it's a little not so great on the gas mileage.
Yeah.
I would just mention that at the last select board meeting, someone asked the town manager, did they have any prospects for hiring a town treasurer, an assessor, or a conservation agent? And the town manager glumly said no. So and she also went on to talk about how she can't manufacture applicants. So
It's tough, and I think that there are a lot of vacancies right now, and I think an issue that might run into, and I know an issue that I had ran into was as the assistant in Westboro, I would have made around the same as the agent's position in Lunenburg. So for less responsibility, you know, kind of the trade-off there is what my thought had been at the time. But I think that a lot of towns are having a tough time with conservation agents right now. I know my previous bosses ran into that, and they were scouring colleges for recent graduates who might be interested. And I hope that it doesn't get to that point in Lunenburg, because it seems like there are a lot of technical and complex projects that require somebody with maybe a little bit of know-how to really give a thorough evaluation, but I'm going to encourage they repost on the job boards, and I'll work with some of the internal nonprofits to see if maybe they can circulate as well. Not that
Well,
I don't like working with you guys.
Well, we really appreciate anything you can do to boost, you know, the exposure of the job rec. That's very, very welcome support.
Yeah, and like I said, I want to do what I can to help you all in the meantime, but I know that I do work 40 hours in Long Meadow, and it's, you know, it's a little unfair to the people of the town and to you guys to not have somebody who's stable and in the office in full time. So I can, you know, certainly I want to help advocate for that.
Well, we appreciate it. As Bob said, your notes are excellent, and your recommendations are on point, and helpful, very helpful. So anything you can do to help us is greatly appreciated, but I definitely don't feel like anybody's trying to twist your arm or anything like that. We just want to acknowledge the great work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, I think I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Mike?
Okay, thank you. And a roll call vote. Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and I for myself. Have a great evening, folks.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bob, you don't look like you got much of a tan in Iceland.
No tan and